My name is Jonathan Gillum.
And this is The Experts.
Well, guess what, folks? We got the whole thing started. We man, I was priding myself on the fact that I got everything started today, and lo and behold, that old on-air button got me again. Thank you to everybody for writing me. I was like, what the heck is everybody writing me for? They know I'm on my show. So here we go. Never fails. There's going to be a day when I get rid of this. I love this. I really enjoy using this box, but that function on it is it's just absolutely the worst. I don't know why. I don't know if I still have sound when I do this. Can you still hear me when I hit this button right here? Let me know. Can you still hear me? Give me a thumbs up, yes or no. Because if it is, there may be a way to subvert this. Okay, sounds like we still got sound. Okay. I'm going to leave it there from now on and just do it that way. Maybe that might work. I don't know. We'll try it. We'll try it tomorrow. Okay, so anyway, that intro was probably the best intro I've ever had. It was spectacular. I wish you could have heard it. But the reality is, okay, here's what happens. For those of you that are tuning in for the first time, we don't need a stinking network. We got these platforms of Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. I used to get embarrassed when things like this happen, but I don't anymore because, look, it's a one-man show. Well, I shouldn't say that. I'm sorry, Rico. My dog Rico's over there. He's 17-year-old Jack Russell that has been my emotional support dog for 16 years. I got him when he was just about a year old. So the way this whole thing works is the liberals inadvertently gave us a platform to actually speak truth. So that's what we do. We concentrate on truth. And we know for a fact, folks, if they start messing with this show, there's been other shows that have been messed with. We know that we're saying something that the communist left, the globalists, that they don't like. So if this show ever comes down, you're going to know we really pushed it over the edge with them, because it doesn't matter if you go to Facebook, Twitter, or YouTube. They all have the same ideology, and eventually, because of the way that they're slowly censoring things more and more, these shows are probably, unfortunately, going to disappear. I mean, I hate to say that, but it's the reality. And after talking today as I hosted the Sean Hannity radio show, we had, man, it was pretty amazing. There was, I had Scott Eulinger, former CIA station chief, which we've had on here before. I had David Horowitz, which was a communist at one point. and then saw the light because I believe one of his friends were murdered, I think is what he told me, by them. And then Pat Buchanan, which was amazing. Getting to interview Pat Buchanan was remarkable. I've always wanted to talk to that guy because he's been there, seen it, done it. And you don't mess with Pat Buchanan. I don't know if you ever noticed that, but when he's on TV, you just don't mess with the guy. And then James O'Keefe was on after that, talking about CNN and the videos that they have. So it was an incredible show today on Sean Hannity as I filled in, and I'd have to say, from not just being in radio, which this is not where I started. Those of you know me, I'm a government servant for over 15 years before I got into this, and I'm telling you, today was one of the best shows I've been a part of since I've been in media, because look, it was all people who've been there, done that. It wasn't talking heads. We didn't have anyone on there that didn't have experience or hasn't laid the smackdown on somebody on the far left. So it was a very interesting show today, and so we're going to cover a little bit of that stuff. We're going to talk, kind of do a rewind about that, and then also in the A block, I know I usually say these things to the end, but in the A block, I want to talk about the NYPD, the communist mayor, and in this city in New York, and the officer that was fallen last night by a murderer, and how I think all the different people that have reached out to me, how this stuff can be solved. It's ridiculous, the fact that cops are being murdered. So let me pull up Twitter. I purposely did not have Twitter when I started because the trolls on Twitter, I know they're probably going to be big today, because when I get through hosting on this show, the Twitter trolls come out. So we'll see. We'll see if they pop up here. Let me pull this up here, and then we're going to go to the A block. So it's a little bit I'm hoping. It doesn't look like the numbers are up that great, so I don't know how many people are tuned in to the beginning and there was no sound. But I'm hoping that we do get a lot of new viewers today, and that, let me turn this down, and that they take part in this and start spreading the word that this show is an option. As those of you that tune in regularly know, it's easy going, and we're not held to a time limit, although I'm going to probably cut this one short. I'm going to say this before I go to the A block. I finally finished my book last night. It was such a huge accomplishment. I still have to send the manuscript in tonight, but I want to go over some things that I wrote yesterday. But I should say last night at 6 o'clock this morning, I finished it, and I basically only slept about 3 hours over the past 2 days finishing this book. So I want to just tell everybody out there that may be watching that has thought about writing your memoirs. This is not my memoirs, okay? My life isn't finished. I don't know how you can write your memoirs if your life's not finished yet. And I still got a lot of stuff to do. So this book is, I'm not telling you what it is because I want to keep it close hold for now. I will tell you that it's going to be available for pre-order soon. I don't know exactly when because we have to get all the data and stuff in and then submit that. But right now the edit process starts in the book. So this is how the whole process works. I've never been a part of this before. And so I want all the people who've ever thought about writing a book to understand how this works. You know, it took me, well, heck, it took me years and years and years of gaining knowledge to talk about what I decided to write about. I don't think that you should just go out there and write a book about a specific skill set if you're trying to teach people something, unless you truly know it. Now, I'm not trained as a writer. I'm not I didn't go to school for literature or English or anything like that. I have a degree in political science and psychology, which I'm not really sure you even have to be literate to be in politics. But so that's what I studied. And so I'm not a writer. This is my first attempt at writing. I think I conveyed it quite well. But what I've realized about myself, and you'll discover this if you sit down and write a book, is that you'll start to see quirks in your personality. Like I've noticed, and I've known this about myself when I'm carrying out tasks. I'm very structured when I carry out a task. Now, if you looked at my apartment or my desk when I was in the FBI, it was a disaster. My apartment's, cluttered, but I lived in the same apartment for 12 years here in Manhattan. So Manhattan apartments, that's what happens. I went to my buddy Kerry's house in Arkansas when I was home last. And he's got an entire garage where he's got, whatever knickknacks that he wants to keep, they're in his garage. I have a drawer, and it's a small drawer. It's a Manhattan apartment drawer. So, you tend to get a little cluttered in your house. I'm by no means am I agoraphobic and a hoarder, but still, it goes without saying, if you live an adventurous life, you're going to collect things along the way. Where am I going with this? So I'm very structured, though, when I'm given a task and I'm doing these different things. But I also have a sense of humor, but my sense of humor, I'm not going to lie to you, it's been buried for a long time. This show's probably helped me bring that sense of humor out a little bit more. Doing radio has helped that. But writing really did give me the opportunity to flex a little bit. So I try. It was funny because in this book, when I started out, it was very dry. It was very structured in what I'm trying to teach through this book. But then as I went along, my sense of humor came out a little bit. So hopefully when it comes out, you pre-order it and then you read it, you'll enjoy both the dry structure of the book where, you're trying to learn a set of skills. So you have to see those skills, but also in the stories that I tell, the sense of humor and the interesting stuff that goes along with that. So I hope I know that if you read through this book, regardless of how good of a writer I am or am not, you will get a lot out of it once we get it out there. So if you are interested in writing a book, this is what you have to realize. This book took me several years to write, and it wasn't until I had a deadline that I actually got it done. And I just kept pushing and pushing. And I would sit here, and I know this sounds terrible, and I don't want anybody to think bad about me, but when it comes to writing, if I have a pot of coffee and 3 Corona lights around me at any given moment, which is a problem because I can only drink 3 Corona Lights and a pot of coffee. And if I go over that pot of coffee or over those 3 Corona Lights, I just go to crap and it doesn't work. But I had to find out that special mix of what allows me to be creative. That plus I put on different music like this song called Time from Jablonski, I think is the guy's name from let me see what movie this is because I want you to know what is going through my mind when I'm writing. So it is Hans Zimmerman. That's who it is, from Inception. So that type of music. I listen to that in my headsets. I have a couple of beers and some coffee, and then I just sit here. And there were days when I didn't get any writing done. I mean, I'd get up and I'd take a break before I even started. But that's the way the process has to work sometimes. At least that's the way it had to work for me. And I think the fact that I was under a deadline, I had to get it done, it worked. So if you've been thinking about writing a book for a long time, main thing you got to do is set yourself a deadline. Don't go past that deadline. I don't care if you have to take off from work. I don't care what you have to do. You sit down and you continue to push it out. I think you should also find a good spot for you to write. I would like to be out in writing, like somewhere like down by the park or something like that. But quite frankly, it takes so long to get down there. If it's too hot, that's going to ruin it. If there's too many people and screaming, that's going to ruin it. So I just stayed here, literally kept the blinds closed and focused like I was in a cave for several days. I like going into that mentality and that mode of where I'm just shutting everything down and shutting it down. So that's what I'm trying to tell you. If you want to write a book, if you're focused on this stuff, do it. And once you get into this role, you're going to see that your brain starts to think like you talk. And that's a pretty exciting time when you make that transition where your hands are actually moving at the speed of your brain. Now, I tried using the voice prompt on my iMac that was donated to me. Jim DeLong got donated. But unfortunately, it doesn't recognize Southern accents. And quite frankly, when I started doing that, I lost the process to think with my sense of humor and stuff. And so I concentrated on the keyboard and got it done. So that's what you have to do. You have to stick to it, set yourself a deadline, find out what the mix is of refreshments that make you feel good and the music. Or sometimes, believe it or not, I'd put YouTube videos in the background and other people are talking, and I actually could write and concentrate very well. I think I have traumatic brain injury. There's no doubt after all the things that I've gone through in the military and law enforcement and a motorcycle crash. But, and I fell out of a helicopter when I was a sealed pup off the coast of Panama. We were climbing up into a helicopter on a rope ladder, and the helicopter did a little jig and threw me, and I landed about 20 feet below on the deck of a ship. So I've had my share of head injuries. I think when I'm writing, they're definitely present, and they're there like little friends all around me. So, why don't we get started? I hope that helps. I hope it helps you understand that I'm not one of these people that's trying to write a book and keep it all to myself and don't want to tell anybody else. I'm not afraid of not getting whatever glory I guess I deserve or need, but I feel like it's important to share these things with the American people because, when somebody's successful and they've gone through things, I'm talking about myself, talking about like other people who have an agent and they have money and it's easy for them to get people to help them structure their lives and tell them this is how you do it. This is what you're going to, what the process is. And if you don't have those contacts, you're not going to know. And maybe you're a very talented writer. Maybe you're not. Maybe it's not your thing, but you're going to try it. Then you should realize this is how it works. We're going to see what the editing process is like next, and I'll tell you about that once that happens. That ought to be fun. So let's go to the A block, and we're going to talk about the NYPD and this officer that was killed last night. I hate it when it keeps rotting in my brain. I hate it when I don't have sound at the beginning of the show because I'm wondering how many people because we get a lot of views. The majority of views happen after the show. I wonder how many people are going to watch it and say there's no sound to this show. We'll see. Maybe in Twitter I'll have to retweet it and say there is sound, just stick with it. So also do this real quick. If you haven't shared on Facebook, make sure that you share it. That's one of the big things about promoting this show. This show, it's your stage. You guys are having dialogue. You're getting to know people. There's been a lot of people that have become friends from this show. Same thing with Twitter. Retweet it. Go to Twitter and retweet that. And then I don't know how it works on Periscope, but and then on YouTube over here. Let me pull up my YouTube here. We also have a chat. Now, somebody was telling me that there's a way to get all these chats on one program. So I'm going to work on that, on getting that done. And so that we can link all these people together, or I can just see them. I'm not exactly sure how that's going to work. I just haven't had time with that. I literally dropped everything last week to get this book finished. Now, unfortunately, last night there was, what I was going to say was, I'm sorry, before I get to that, share on Facebook and like my page. On Twitter, you need to retweet it and follow me. I may follow you back. Now, don't get mad if I don't follow you back on Twitter or on Facebook. The fact is, today, for instance, on my Facebook went up 1,000 people, and I think my Twitter went up like 1,000. So, I don't have time to go through all the different people and add them. And really, this is the sad facts, folks. You have to be very careful with who you add on these different platforms when you're a public figure, because inevitably somebody from the media is going to come back and say, that you have that guy has white supremacists on his Twitter with him. I may never have known those people, and I mistakenly add it. So you have to be very careful with that. So if I don't follow you back or like you back, or however it works, if you follow me on YouTube and I don't get back to you, or if you write me and I don't get back to you, I do try to answer the things that you all write. I do see the majority of the stuff, but on days like today when I host the Hannity radio show, I mean, I go and in 3 hours I have hundreds of emails, 1,000 new followers, and I can't keep up with it. So don't get angry if it's that important for me to follow you or like your page or whatever. Unfriend me on Twitter or on Facebook, and then refollow or re-like, and then maybe that'll get my attention specifically for you. I mean, listen, I'll try my best. It's not like I'm any kind of famous person, and even these famous people, there's nothing different about them. They're just busy, so that may be the reality of this. If I can get to you, I will. Now, unfortunately, that little rant there took my numbers down quite a bit there on Twitter. So let's see how many people. We got 29 watching on YouTube. YouTube is starting to grow. And that's good, because the message that I'm about to give you right now, everybody needs to understand. This precious police officer in the Bronx, unfortunately, was murdered last night, sitting in what's called a THV, and that's looks like a bread truck, actually, but the NYPD utilizes that for command posts. They use it for when they've got different groups of officers out, like they'll put that on a post, and then that's where everybody checks in and checks out for special events and different things that are going on. They have all different kinds of programs that they run out of those things and operational stuff that they do. That's really not what's important here. What is important is that I've gotten a tremendous amount of feedback from law enforcement officers, because when I should say law enforcement officers, NYPD officers, that are very, very upset with the brass and very upset with the communist mayor here in New York City that refuses to put bulletproof glass in these different vehicles and some types of bulletproof coating in the doors or whatever. You know, my buddy Bill Gibbons, who is with Veterans Manufacturing, I can put his, he may be on it. If you're on, buddy, put your stuff up there. They make products, which I've shown on here before. I got it locked up over here. That is a very small, light material that can sustain and block almost any round from pistols. And I don't understand why the NYPD is not working with some of these individuals like Billy Gibbons, so they can partner with them and get this stuff on in the cars and in the vehicles. You know, this female officer was sitting there minding her own business. You know, these officers deploy every day that they go out. It's just like being in the military, but they leave home. They're not going into war overseas. They're going into war here on the streets. And unfortunately, some guy who had a rift with law enforcement officer and law enforcement in general, hated cops, came in there. And as my good friend Debbie says here on YouTube, where's BLM? Where's Al Sharpton? These media whores and these subversive groups like Al Sharpton and Black Lives Matter, which is a terrorist group. I mean, I'm not even going to try and sugarcoat. Black Lives Matter, Antifa, BAMN, they're all communist. They're all subversive, and they're all terrorist groups. They use force, intimidation, and in this case, not necessarily this guy, but in Dallas and Louisiana, people that pledge their allegiance to Black Lives Matter, they use killing in the name of a political change and for a political aim. That is the very definition of terrorism. So, man, if I could speak to the president, I've said this many, many times. One of the things I would beg of him is to start naming these people as terrorist groups and recognizing them as terrorist groups and subversive groups. We should be going out after subversive groups and people just that outright say they hate the United States and they're communist. Why is communism even allowed? Why is listen? Hitler didn't even come close to killing the number of people that communism has killed throughout history. Why is communism even allowed? Now I know this has nothing to do with this beautiful young police officer that was gunned down, mother that was now, orphaned. I don't know if she's married, but now her kids don't have a mom. They sure do have an amazing legacy of a mom, though. Listen, I wish his kids were here. I'd tell them your mom is still alive. She just is not here right now, and you will see her again if you live your life correctly. But before I get to her, this communist thing is just completely out of control. And Hitler didn't even come close to killing the number of people that communism has killed. So I can't understand how we can go after crazy people like Hitler and all that he stood for and then do nothing about communism. Communism is a fake hope. It is this weird belief that some kind of utopia exists. And I'm telling you, folks, if you look up and study Satan and the way that he works and what he actually wants, I'm telling you, when Satan reveals himself in this world, and I'm not Alex Jones, I'm not some conspiracy theorist. I've read the Bible 3 times. I've studied religions in college, world religions. I know what I'm talking about here. When Satan reveals himself, he's going to be a communist. And it's not the communist that everybody thinks. He's going to be wearing, a red star and a gray coat and look like Stalin with it. No, this is a fake utopia. It's a lie. Just like when he lied to Adam and Eve in the Garden of Eden, to get them to do his dirty work, basically. Because if you think he didn't know what he was doing, you think he just had them eat of this apple because he was bad? No. You are a supercomputer to him. You're just like in the Matrix. You know how they had the batteries, that human beings were being used as batteries. Satan and nefarious entities use you and use your knowledge of good and evil that they can't have. They use you to do their dirty work. So they had you eat of the apple, and now they utilize your knowledge to try and ultimately defeat God and rule human beings. All these angelic creatures, from what I'm studying lately, just are something about human beings. I wrote a meme 2 days ago after sitting here and thinking about all this stuff. God, the creator of all universe, created man in his own image. He then came down, became a human, walked on the earth, and then as in his words, paid the ultimate sacrifice for our sins. Now, he didn't become an angel. He didn't become a lion. He didn't become some other great creature that we may not know about that roams the universe. He became a human being. That's how important we are. I don't know the secret to that. I don't know the answer, but I know it's pretty important. And for whatever reason, Satan is so latched in on that he's got all these people fooled. This person on Twitter today wrote me and said that I was an idiot and all the stuff I was saying was idiotic on Hannity. First of all, I should have thanked him for tuning in. But I don't normally respond to people like that, but I wanted to make it clear to this guy that you could add up every stupid and idiotic thing, and I've said a lot in my life, you could add all those up, and they would still never measure up to the statement that this guy had on his Twitter handle, that he's an atheist. That's just the dumbest thing that you could ever do, is be an atheist. That means that you've resigned yourself to forever arguing the fact that there is not a God, which in effect shows that intrinsically that there is one. Otherwise, why would you argue about it? That's like a drug addict saying no. Drugs are, I don't know where I'm going with this, but it's the sheer fact that they argue about it shows you that the human psyche is driven to believe that there is a God, and I pray for those types of people. So, we'll cover this stuff a little bit more, but getting back to this this incredible officer that was killed. I was contacted by a lot of officers that are furious because she was sitting in this vehicle, that she was killed, and this is happening over and over. Now, there's a couple things here. One, I think that the NYPD, and if the NYPD as an organization is not going to do it, I think that the unions or the officers should do it themselves. You don't have to wait for a policy to come out to do something that's right. So I think officers should be getting together and they should be creating overwatch positions for each other. In other words, you don't just park next to each other and hang out your windows and eat your sandwiches and talk. You don't live in that world anymore. Just like we don't lock our doors at night. I mean, we don't leave our doors unlocked at night. We lock our doors because somebody may actually break into your house. So officers, when you're not chasing somebody and you're not doing these the high-speed law enforcement dangerous things like pulling somebody over for a traffic violation, you all should be working together to set up overwatch positions. I'm going to eat my sandwich now. You eat your sandwich when I'm done. You watch me, and you get a 360-degree view. You park, maybe next to a wall where there's nobody can come behind you, but you can see out this way, and you can see the other vehicle over there, and they're parked in. See, you have to start thinking tactically like that. If you have veterans that were part of an infantry unit or special forces or something like that, you need to approach those people and talk to them about Overwatch and talk to them about how they would set up their foxholes or their ORPs or whatever you want to call it. Different people call it different things, but how they would set up their group and overwatch each other when they got to a point when they were setting up for the evening or before they did an attack. So it's very simple to do. You don't have to wait on the NYPD to come up with the policy. You can sit down, seek out veterans, and everybody on a shift should be working together. And I know what people do in law enforcement. They're going to go to her funeral. They're going to say, it's tragic. This pisses me off. We don't have bulletproof glass, yada, yada, yada. And then in a week or a month, they're going to go right back out there and they're going to do the exact same thing. They're going to be writing a log. They're not going to be looking around. They're going to look up every now and then. When somebody tries to say hi to them, they're going to be a jerk to them, which is the wrong thing to do. And then they're just not going to have the awareness that they should have, the overwatch that they should have. This has to change, men and women in law enforcement, and this is up to you. You can't blame the NYPD for this. I mean, they may have bad policy, but it's going to be up to you. You guys are going to have to do this together. You see the incompetence at high levels of law enforcement and the executive levels, federal, state, and local, and politics. So you're just going to have to work on this yourself. Contact me. I'll help out with whatever I can. So it's interesting. She was murdered not even 2 miles from where I live. And the officers that were killed the year before last were killed, I don't know, maybe 10 miles from where I live, right out here. But we live in Manhattan, so you don't really get the feel for the fact that this has happened. And Manhattan, by and large, is one of the safest cities in the world, statistically. But the possibility of bad things going on are always around. So remember, there's a difference between probability, the numbers, and statistics, and the possibility. You need to start looking at the possibility of these things happening. And I hate seeing this happen to law enforcement, but hopefully, maybe, this will be something that wakes cops up and they start realizing you just can't be complacent. And you also shouldn't try to be a boss if you're not in it for the right reasons. And the NYPD has a bad problem with these super chiefs. Some are great, many are not. And the egos are unchecked and have caused a lot of problems. In the FBI, I don't know if it's ego problem. It's just more or less incompetency and the wrong people stepping up to the plate to be bosses. So, yeah, I don't know Sheriff Clark. Somebody's writing Sheriff Clark rules. I don't know him. I mean, he may be a nice guy and a conservative, but he's a Democrat, and he is, and his city is in shambles. So I don't know. Why don't we do this? Let's go to the B block, and I'm going to talk a little bit more about this communism stuff, and then I've got to get out of here. I've got to go through this book and take Rico for a walk, get some groceries so I can feed this machine, and then try to get in the bed for a change. Well, I'll tell you what, one of the things I love here is I'm going to start pushing this competition between YouTube, Twitter, and Facebook about how many people we can get on the shows every night. I'm really gonna maybe we can start pushing this, because this would be interesting to see. Why's my light flickering up there? This is going to be interesting to see which one of these actually eventually takes off. Yeah, this would be interesting. So I was going to have Scott Eulinger call in tonight, but maybe I'll have him call in sometime this week to talk some more about North Korea. I've talked so much about North Korea. Literally, I've talked so much today, my mouth is cramped right now. And yesterday when I was writing, or this morning about 6 o'clock, my hands felt like I had arthritis. They were like this from typing. I didn't know if I was going to be able to finish. I thought I was going to have to go to sleep and take a break. Yeah, the other thing about alerts for this show is Steve Yarby says he doesn't get alerts. I don't know what the deal is with that whole nonsense. So, I'm probably going to start somewhere between 9 and 9:15 typically. So, and maybe I'll have sound. I don't know. So, just count on it being there, and I'll let you know, or Becky will know, because she's always asking. Becky's always trying to find out. I really should hire Becky as a human alarm clock, because she is on it. She knows my schedule better than I do, and she's always asking me, "Where are you?" Okay, so I don't know. I've covered the subject so many times. How is Mayor de Blasio in office here? How is the mayor in Berkeley? Hold on. Sorry, I didn't mean to stick my armpit in the camera there. All right. I'm way off script today. But you know what? Listen, we listening to Pat Buchanan talk today was very interesting, because Pat Buchanan was in the Nixon administration. Now, I don't know if you like Pat Buchanan or not. One thing I've always admired about him was that he just is not – he's really not worried about what the liberal left thinks about him, and he is spot on with a lot of the stuff that he says. And he is always stuck to what he feels is the way things are. But he has real insight into this stuff. And listening to him to talk today, what was very interesting about it is he is saying the same thing and has seen the same thing from the 60s. And now you couldn't get anybody that's more different. Ted Nugent said the same thing as Pat Buchanan. Ted Nugent is a rocker who existed in the rock world, but yet Ted Nugent was never a druggie, never got any of that stuff, and he saw the same exact thing. Pat Buchanan was in the Nixon administration; he saw it. You talk to Scott Eulinger, who is was a CIA operations officer for over 20 years and a station chief. He saw it from that point of view. David Horowitz was a communist. He saw it from behind the enemy lines, and they all said the same thing. And to me, it's just fascinating. I don't know what's going on with this light. It's just fascinating that somehow, some way, we have allowed this to continue in this country. I don't know. It's really, really, really beyond me. But hearing it from Pat Buchanan was probably Pat Buchanan and David Horowitz were amazing because they were on two opposite sides of the field at the same time and couldn't have been any more polar opposite. Yet now when they speak, they say the exact same thing and they see the exact same thing. The other thing we did today on the show was we played the soundbite that they have with all these different Madonna, Jim Carrey, CNN, MSNBC, all these different celebrities talking this nonsense about wanting to blow up the White House and this about Trump and that about Trump. And these are people that if you walked up to him on the sidewalk and said, first of all, you're not going to get close to Madonna on the sidewalk. She got bodyguards. She lives a life of extravagance. She lives a life of somebody who, would never, she's not going to even comprehend the life that a normal person lives. She's long since forgot that. And for them to come out and lecture anybody about what is best, but Jim Carrey's talking about beating the president up. Some rapper was talking about killing him and ISIS with the same ice pick. I mean, these are the people that you're knowingly or unknowingly allowing your children to watch or listen to. Jim Carrey, as I said today on the show, Jim Carrey is the equivalent of a joker. You remember, on the cards, you get the one card that you normally just don't even use when you're playing most games. I'm not a big card player. But Jim Carrey is the equivalent of a joker, a jester, a court jester that used to be in a king's court. And if he didn't make them laugh or entertain them, he was killed. Okay, that's the guy who is now trying to tell the American people that comics are the saviors of this country, and ridiculous. He's no different than the ashes in a fire, as far as like he'll be gone one day and the world won't change. The world's not going to change while he's in it because of Jim Carrey. I used to think he was quite funny. Now I think he's quite crazy. And there seems to be this system of narcissism going around. Hello, Phil. There seems to be this I don't always address people. I just addressed somebody, Phil, from Facebook a little while ago, my friend Debbie. Sorry, I'm reading this on YouTube. I'm trying to get them included here. But there seems to be something going around Hollywood. It's always been there, but it seems more prevalent now, if you've noticed it. You have Jim Carrey, whose girlfriend killed herself, and this guy is going to come out and he acts like he doesn't even show any emotion to that. He comes out and he's talking about politics. If somebody killed themselves because of you, don't you think it might change your humility a little bit? Bill Cosby, look, I don't know what happened with Bill Cosby and all that stuff. I mean, I think it's pretty obvious he was drugging women to do stuff with them. Which it doesn't matter what case that is. It's not legal and it's unethical, and he should be in jail. But this guy, because his court case came up on a mistrial, his lawyer comes out and says he's gonna go out and now teach young people how to deal with and how to fight sexual assault charges that aren't true. I mean, no remorse. Chris Christie, let's not leave people from the Republican Party out. You all know I'm not happy with the GOP establishment. Chris Christie, not only was he out there sunbathing on a shut-down beach, he did the same thing he did with the George Washington Bridge. He just shut it down because he wanted to, stick it to somebody. He was also taking the helicopter back and forth. It's not like he lives, 18 hours away. He should have to sit in the same traffic as everyone else. There's nothing that special about Chris Christie that, or most of these governors or mayors that run these states and cities. if they suddenly were not in office anymore, it's not really going to change much. Not really. You pretty much can say that about all politicians. It's not like they succeeded anything. Chris Christie's been a complete failure. Complete failure. So, he needs to be on time for his meetings, but there's no extra attention that needs to be paid to Chris Christie. He's a failure. He's a bully. And the shtick that he played, he tried to play what Trump plays, but Trump is somebody who is a success and somebody who is outspoken and isn't going to be pushed around. Chris Christie literally goes out, pushes people around, and then doesn't produce any results. So, again, this weird narcissistic, almost psychopathic behavior amongst all these people. It's very similar in a different way to, Miley Cyrus, and you see Katy Perry. How could you be that beautiful and then go down this direction? All the Disney people have gone down this direction. I literally think that Disney has some type of, I don't know if there's a drug dealer in there or something going on, but the reality, you can look, I'm not trying to start conspiracy theories about anything, but when I look at a trend that is being established for a certain group of people coming out of a certain location, or they're in a certain career field, and then they all start behaving, looking irrationally, looking a certain way, there's something going on there. And of course, it's probably not going to be investigated, but it's very similar to this stuff going on with these big wigs out of Hollywood in politics. They just act like they are untouchable, and they have no concept of the reality of how they look. It's like weirdos. I don't know. It's strange. I don't know. All right, listen. It's 9:59. I got started a little late. Talked for about 3 minutes with no sounds. At least she had music. So that nobody gets angry, let me go back over here, and let me just look across the board here at the different chats and see what you guys have. Carrie is a face-making buffoon. Jim Carrey is a Canadian. That explains everything. This is off of YouTube. Let's see here. All right, let me go over here to... I can't scroll back through Twitter because of the way it happens there. Canada is America's ball cap. Oh, you do a lot of blows. Thank you. And, listen, Keith, typically my show is a little bit more energetic than this, but when I've been talking all day like this, it gets a little bit difficult. And again, this is not a scripted show, so. Jack Jr., what's up, buddy? You know what, Jack? You brought up something. You said it's that Tom Cruise crazy religion Scientology. You may not be far off from that, because I was amazed talking to somebody the other day about who all is in Scientology, and I was shocked to find out that Burt Reynolds is a Scientologist. Yeah, I was shocked. I don't know. Scientology, I don't think Scientology is of Satan. I think Scientology is of man, because you can totally see the reality. I don't know. Who knows what it's of? But all these different groups like that. One thing I'm starting to notice with all these secret groups and how everybody profoundly thinks they're doing this mysterious thing or that mysterious thing. Look, the reality is, when you go around doing secret things, it's because you're involved in stuff that shouldn't be done. And if it's known in public, you're either going to get put in jail or you're going to be an outcast. Now, there are secret societies, and there may be people here that are Masons or whatever, and I know that's going to get stuff started. But here's the reality, folks. you can live this, we're doing honorable this and we're doing honorable that. But the reality is, if you're a part of one of these groups, you should really monitor what's going on, because I've been around. I've been in law enforcement. I've done all these different things, and by and large, if you're doing stuff in secret, if you're swearing oaths to something that's not the Constitution or God, you're going to be called upon one day to do something. It's no different than if you kiss the signet ring of the mafia and you get involved with them. I mean, it's not like you're just going to hang out with them. You are going to be called upon eventually to do something for them. And it's the same thing with the rest of these groups. It's the same thing with any of these secret groups. If you're doing stuff in secret, eventually you're going to be doing something that's wrong in secret. And if you swear an oath to something that, period, you're going to, look, you swear an oath to the Constitution. If you're swearing an oath to the Constitution, maybe you could do that as a civilian. You can swear together that you'll support and defend the Constitution against all enemies, foreign and domestic. That's great. But when you do it officially, you will be called upon. You will be. There's no doubt about it. You are going to be called upon when you swear an oath to the Constitution. Well, if you're part of one of these secret groups and you swear an oath to something, you're going to be called upon. Trust me on that. You need to think about that. Annie says she is only in the group of Jesus Christ our Savior. I like that. Larry C. Chuck, thank you for joining. Let me see what else. Jennifer Callow says, is it Callio? My grandmother told me if you can't do something in front of others, then you shouldn't do it in general. Man, I love Grandma. Somebody needs to write a book, speaking of that, called Grandma Sense. Let's see here. Debbie, Scientology is a hoax. I read that book, Dianetics, back in 1984 and immediately recognized it as BS, babble, targeting desperate folks. And Debbie, you just nailed. I can always count on my mentor, Debbie, to come up with this stuff. Debbie was she's one of the greatest leaders I ever worked under, not just in the FBI, but in general. And she's like a sage of wisdom. Most of these, whether it be subversive groups, secret groups, Scientology, the Democratic Party, they always are seeking desperate people that are looking for inclusion in something. I remember reading something just the other day with some guy who was he was transgender, but maybe he was I don't remember exactly what it was, but the whole gist of the story was, and people were celebrating because he was a part of something, but the fact was he just could not. He had to be a part of something to find an ideology. He couldn't just be a person. He had to belong to a group, somebody who had a cause, so that he could find himself. And listen, if you can't sit quietly with yourself for a week, if you go take a road trip sometime, don't even turn the radio on. Just go for a ride. Leave for 3-4 days. Spend it by yourself. If you don't like being with you, you got problems. And if you feel like angry, at that point, you don't have really anybody to blame it on. You're going to know that maybe the anger that you're feeling or the resentment that you think people are resenting you or don't like you, maybe it's something you're causing in your own brain. But you need to spend time with yourself in order to see that. If you're just constantly jumping on the bandwagon with every single cause and you're looking for an identity, you're going to be given an identity, which means that you were not going to know who you actually really are, and you're not going to know the reality of who they are until they task you to do something. All right. I think I'm going to go to the Truth Zone. I'm going to go up here and get something to eat. And I like this. Lori Miller said she tells her kids no one can make them feel inferior without your consent. That is the truth. All right. So Raymond says General George Washington was a Freemason. So I just saw a documentary on that the other day, and apparently for over 30 years of his life, he didn't have the latter part of his life, he didn't have anything to do with the Masons. And in fact, he renounced them on his deathbed, according to the documentary that I saw. So interesting. I don't know. We're not going to get into one of those Freemason discussions tonight. I don't feel like hashing that out. That's bigger than I am. Let's go to the Truth Zone. All right. Well, I know you're not feeling what I'm feeling. I look tired. I feel a little tired. It's been a long day. It's been a long 2 days because I haven't been to sleep really in 2 days. But I learned a tremendous amount writing this book. I've been working on this book for a long time. I feel like, speaking of Scientologists, Tom Cruise in Risky Business. I've been working on this book for a long time, folks. I had to learn. I had to get the knowledge. And then I had to put myself out there and so I could fully understand the knowledge that I had and then go out and experience life so that I could combine those and formulate wisdom. But putting it down on paper was totally different. But one thing it taught me at almost 48 years old, 47 and a half, is that you have to continue to keep challenging yourself. If you stop challenging yourself, you might as well go ahead and get ready for your deathbed. Because if you just stop moving, which I've been guilty of, when you stop moving, life stops. When I finished with that book this morning, listen, I'm not going to be a Pulitzer Prize winning author. It's going to be a book that will teach you what you need to know so that you can be empowered. I'll give you that. But I'm not looking to be the greatest author. What I did was I unfroze myself. And if you're frozen, you need to do whatever it takes. Because just like these individuals that my friend Debbie was talking about, those people that are seeking an identity, those people that are desperate and despondent, if you stop moving, you're in the same boat that they're in. You were put on this earth to keep moving until the day God makes you stop moving. Make it an effort over this month of July. Let's call this Independence Month, not just Independence Day. Let's call this Independence Month. Celebrate your independence, folks. Celebrate it by moving forward on some task that you haven't been able to do. Get up in the middle of the night and go for a jog. Take an ice bath. Go ride a roller coaster. Just leave. Get up and go leave. Stay gone for 3 days. I remember one time when I was in the FBI, I woke up and I was like, I'm not going to eat today. I haven't done this in a long time since I was in the military. I'm just not going to eat. I didn't eat for 7 days. I just kept pushing myself forward. Why? Because I don't want to feel stuck. I don't want to feel stagnant. And I felt that. It's a horrible feeling. Your identity exists in you. Do whatever it takes to find that identity. I'm Jonathan Gillum. This is The Experts. Old Rico's asleep over there. The truth has arrived.